everybody, welcome to Board Online, Board Offline. Today we're bringing you my top 10 plus one favorite games of all time. To give you an idea of where I'm coming from, I have played 60 different games during my time in this hobby. 565 plays total of all these different games combined, and I've played with 44 different people. So that'll kind of give you an idea of what I'm pulling from. Number 11 is Abyss. Now this is a game by Bruno Cathala and Charles Chevier. I hope I didn't butcher your name there, sir. And one of the things, this is basically a game where you're competing for the throne of this underwater empire. And the artwork in this game, I mean, how many times can somebody say how amazing this artwork is? Which, by the way, the artist for this game was Xavier Colette, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. And it's basically you're trying to get various lords on your side by using your influence, and you've got a squid faction and a seahorse faction and all this stuff. But the artwork itself just brings you into the game. You've got pearls as your currency, and there's sea monsters that you fight. You don't really fight them. I mean, basically, if you decide you're going to attack a sea monster, you beat it. So there's not really any risk there, but still, it's all kind of adds to that theme of trying to build your influence and reputation in this underwater empire. And the person at the end of the game that has the most influence is the one that becomes the emperor, I suppose, of the game. There's so many different ways. I believe there's 4 or 5 different ways to score points at the end of the game, and all of it just kind of comes together in this really fun 45-minute to an hour Euro-style game. Number 10 on this list is Star Wars Imperial Assault. This is really like a twofer in that you have the campaign game of Star Wars Imperial Assault, and then you've got the skirmish game. And at this point, initially I thought the campaign was where it was going to be after me. That's what I thought I was getting the game for. I will say that the campaign may have a runaway leader problem. We certainly experienced that in one of our campaigns where the Imperial player was just so brutal and so... The game was definitely about winning for him as opposed to creating a good story, and he had the skill to back it up, and it was just 6 losses in a row, and then we gave up. The skirmish game, however, is what I have been enjoying recently. I've played a few of those games with my buddy Eric, and we have really enjoyed that. We'll probably be playing some more of that in the near future, and may even get a video up of it. But this is Star Wars Imperial Assault is designed by Justin Kampanen, Jonathan Ying, and Corey Konieczka, who, by the way, you'll see Corey Konieczka a little later on my list as well. It's heavily based off of the Descent system. A lot of the dice rolling and all that stuff is pretty similar. Some of the symbols have been changed. Some of the rules have been streamlined and tweaked to make it a little more, just a little more streamlined and a little bit better, I believe. And then you got the Star Wars theme, and how can you if you're at all a Star Wars fan, this game has all of the squad-based, land-based combat that you could want in a game. I suppose the only thing we've got left, we've got Armada, we've got Armada for the big space battles, X-Wing for the dogfights, and Imperial Assault for the small squad-based battles. So the only thing I can think that we need to make it all complete would be, say, a War of the Ring size type game where you've got large battles like that. But I don't know if that type of stuff ever really happened a whole lot in Star Wars. Could be interesting, though. So, number 10, Star Wars Imperial Assault. Got off track there. Number 9 on my list is Seven Wonders Duel. Now, I have played Seven Wonders, I believe, once. And it's okay. I don't find it to be hugely compelling. However, Seven Wonders Duel, on the other hand, I have really enjoyed, gotten quite a few plays. I got it for Christmas this year, got quite a few plays in. The wife likes it a pretty good bit, and she doesn't like it quite as much as I do, but we still play a decent amount. Everybody else I've introduced it to also likes it. Seems to be a hit with pretty much everybody. This is designed by Antoine Bauza and Bruno Cathala. Second time you see him on the list. They found a very interesting way to do the drafting from Seven Wonders in a two-player format, because generally speaking, passing cards back and forth between two players is just not as compelling. So instead, you have this pyramid-like stack of cards on the table where some of them are face up, some of them are face down, but you can only take the cards that are completely uncovered. And so as you draw cards off of this pyramid stack, more cards will become uncovered, and then those will now be available. And so you have to think carefully about what you're going to uncover, because if it's something that your opponent really wants, then you'll be actually playing right in their hand by allowing them to take that card. So my number 9 is Seven Wonders Duel. My number 8 is Thunderstone Advance, designed by Mike Elliott. This is a 1 to 5 player deck building game where you've got monsters at the top of the board, and there's the village in the center of the board, and you are purchasing heroes and items and villagers, or hiring heroes and villagers, I suppose, not really purchasing them. Anyway, bring them into your deck and using them to fight monsters in either the wilderness or the dungeon, depending on which side of the board you use. The wilderness is a little bit easier than the dungeon. And as the monsters are going across the top of the board, you're trying to kill them and eventually kill the big bad that'll be somewhere in the bottom, near the bottom of the deck. And then if you're playing with more than one player, it's going to be whoever scores the most points, because each monster is worth a certain number of points. Whoever scores the most points is the winner of the game. And if you're playing the solo version, then the monsters actually will not only move across the top of the board, but will move off the board, and you need to have more points than the stack of monsters that got away is worth in order to win the solo game. The artwork in this game is really cool. I have 2 different base sets that I've mixed together, Worlds Collide and Numenera. And Numenera has a little bit of a sci-fi feel to it, so that's kind of cool. But most of this is definitely of a more fantasy flair, even though it's a little bit off from your typical fantasy, which I like as well. Definitely something you should check out. If you can find this, buy it. It is becoming increasingly difficult to find at a reasonable rate as it's out of print now. And from the sounds of it, AEG is not going to be reprinting it anytime soon. So everything's getting to be more expensive. The base sets at this point, I believe, are all very expensive, and then the smaller expansions are also rising in price at this point. So be sure to grab it if you can find it. Thunderstone Advance. My number 7 all-time favorite game is Dead of Winter, designed by Jonathan Gilmour and Isaac Vega, published by Plaid Hat Games, of course. And this one is just, oh man, I have 2 main groups that I play with. One of them is absolutely obsessed with this game. We play it probably every other time we get together at this point. You've got your personal objective, you've got a main objective, and you've got the potential for a traitor in there as well. All of that combines to make a constantly paranoid, just always looking over your shoulder, always worried about what the guy next to you or the girl next to you is doing. And are they not playing medicine because they're hoarding it, or are they not playing medicine because they've had the worst luck imaginable at the hospital? You know, it's that kind of a feel to it. Some of my most memorable gaming moments come from playing this game. It's got the Crossroad deck, which is also amazing, where, you know, as you're playing certain events or certain things, just regular things that you do on the board, moving from this location to that location, might trigger a Crossroad card that will then have some sort of moral dilemma, perhaps, that you have to decide what you're going to do. Fantastic game. Love it. Absolutely love it. And it is number 7 on my list. Expansion is coming out, or is out, The Long Night. Be sure to check that out. Adds a lot of cool things. I haven't gotten my copy yet. I do plan on trying to get a copy soon, so we'll see how that goes. My number 6 is Mansions of Madness, designed by Corey Konieczka. This is from Fantasy Flight, Fantasy Flight Games. This game, I admit, it could be so high on my favorites because of it was one of the very first games that got me into the hobby. But man, I still love playing this game. I love being the keeper, which is kind of like the Overlord in Descent. I love being the investigators. Doesn't matter which side of the ball I'm playing as far as that goes. I love both sides. And it is just so much fun, so thematic, so much of a story can be told while playing this game. I actually still don't have one of there were two main expansions, I don't know if you call them big box, but I guess you call them big box expansions. I have one of them, but I don't have Call of the Wild, I believe is what the other one's called. I really ought to get that one as well before it becomes too hard to get, because I believe this game is no longer being supported by Fantasy Flight Games. We haven't seen anything new for it for a while, but the modular board, the minis, the monsters, the way the keeper works with the various action cards, and one of my favorite things is there's an event deck that acts as the timer for the game, and after a certain amount of turns, the event turns over and something happens, and the investigators they have to get done with their goal, whatever that is, by the end of that deck. But that's usually when the game ends. And the thing is, when the investigators start playing, they're not 100% sure what their goal is. They have to kind of discover it by exploring through different rooms and picking up weapons and clues and finding ways through locked doors and all this stuff. A lot of fun. It is very, very fiddly, and it suffers from this issue where at the beginning of the game, when the keeper is setting the game up, if they screw up and don't put the right card in the right place, it really can ruin the game. It could break the game if you don't set it up properly. So you really got to be careful with that and know what you're doing. But as long as you do that properly, and fortunately I've never had an experience where I've set the game up wrong, but as long as you do that properly, then you're going to have a fantastic experience playing this game. And especially if you look at it more as a thematic experience, which it definitely is a thematic experience. All right, my number 5 favorite game of all time is Pandemic Legacy Season 1 from Z-Man Games, designed by Rob Daviau and Matt Leacock. Now, I understand, maybe you're not a big fan of Legacy games. Well, if that's the case, I don't know. I don't want to tell you. It is truly an experience. Playing a Legacy game is an experience unlike anything else you'll get from a board game. And it's not necessarily a better experience, but it is a completely unique experience. And you have to play it, and you need to play it by the rules that when something is destroyed, it's destroyed. There is something different about actually having to rip up a card versus simply putting it in the box and just saying I won't play with it anymore. There is a different feeling. It affects you. It really does affect you differently, having to do that. And at this point, I've played all the way through the campaign for Pandemic Legacy. I will say that the ending might have left a little something to be desired. However, the experience as a whole, the entire campaign as a whole, was an amazing ride. Really, just some of the most memorable times playing board games of my life happened during this campaign. My wife and I played it, just the two of us, using two characters each. So, oh man, it was just so much fun. So there's not a lot I could say because spoilers are obviously a problem in this game, so I can't really say a whole lot about it, except that you need to experience this. I've also played some Risk Legacy, have not gotten all the way through that one. I will say this, though, that Pandemic Legacy is very clearly a step up from Risk Legacy. And if you're going to try a Legacy game, I would definitely say go with Pandemic Legacy, because it's really going to throw you in head first into the Legacy experience, whereas Risk Legacy is just not quite as solid a game as Pandemic Legacy. So that's my number 5, Pandemic Legacy Season 1. My number 4 is a game I've only played one time. I don't own this game, but I played it at one of my groups that I go to and immediately loved it. I will own it eventually, and I just don't even know how to describe how much I enjoyed this game the first time I played it. got my tail whooped the first time I played it, but I cannot wait to play it again, and that's Blood Rage. This game is it's a when you get right down to it, it's really kind of a Euro game. It's a little bit of an area control game, and the combat is all card based, so there's no dice rolling. It looks like an Ameritrash game, but it really plays like a Euro game, and oh man, I can't even describe the fun that's to be had in this game. You have a drafting phase where you're pulling in out of this deck what your power is going to be for that particular age, and then parts of the board get blown up at the end of each age, and Ragnarok is coming, and the board keeps getting smaller, and everybody's fighting for what's left, and wow, what an experience. So this is designed by Eric Lang and published by Cool Mini or Not. So you know that the miniatures are fantastic, of course. Only played it one time, and it's at number 4 on my list. Played it quite a while ago, though, and I can't stop thinking about playing it again. So number 4 on my list is Blood Rage. Number 3 on my list is a game designed by Rainer Stockhausen and published by Tasty Mitchell Games, and that's Orleans, or Orleans. I always call it Orleans. I know that it's Orleans. That's number 3 on my list. This game is the game that has pretty much brought Euros into the forefront in my gaming, and has really made me excited to try other ones. I've had Viticulture for a while, and that one's been difficult to get to the table for some reason. This one, on the other hand, makes it to the table very frequently. I've only had it for a little while, and we have played it quite a bit. My wife loves it a lot, and I've been able to introduce it to several other people. My sister and my brother-in-law, they like it as well. And it plays very quickly once everybody knows what they're doing. I believe the wife and I make it through a game in roughly 40 minutes at this point. And, with extra people, with full 4 players, we still make it through a game in about an hour, maybe slightly more. And it is just a lot of fun. Constantly building it's a bag builder game, so you're constantly putting new tiles in there and then drawing them out, seeing what you get. You've got buildings you can purchase to help you in your quest for victory points. You have all kinds of actions. You can take your guys and put them over on this other board over here that takes them, it removes them from the game, but also gives you a benefit by doing so. The one thing I'll say about the game is that the Good Works board, where you remove your guys from the game permanently, but you get that extra little benefit, I do wish that scaled per player. Everything else scales. You take a certain amount of goods out of the game for how many players there are. You take a certain amount of the character tiles out of the game, or character discs, or whatever you want to call them, out of the game, depending on how many players there are. I feel like the Good Works board should have scaled down, and perhaps even the number of cities that are available for you to travel to on the main map should have scaled. However, those are my only 2 complaints about the game, really, my 2 main complaints. Other than that, this game has been a lot of fun. We really enjoy it. That's my number 3, Orleans. My number 2 favorite game of all time is Ziya Legends of a Drift System. Now, this is from Cody Miller and Far Off Games, which really they're kind of the same person. And this game is a space exploration game. The board is modular. You're flipping them over, finding new places. You're exploring areas. You're mining. You're salvaging. You can be a pirate, a bounty hunter, a merchant, whatever you want to be. You buy missiles or blasters or shields, engines, upgrading your ships. Oh, so many different things. There's an expansion that just got funded on Kickstarter, which is the first board game I've ever backed on Kickstarter. Most people who watch my channel know that, generally speaking, I don't back games on Kickstarter. But this expansion adds solo play, and it adds new sector tiles. It adds events to the game, which were not there before. You're getting new titles. That's the other thing. You can get titles by completing certain little kind of mini quests, and then all of a sudden, now you're considered a menace, but that gets you a fame point and gives you a bonus. So So many cool things going on in this game. The ships are pre-painted. The coins for the currency are metal. I just don't even know where to stop with this game. It's so fantastic. Now, it certainly is very Ameritrash, so keep that in mind. If you don't like dice rolling, you won't like this game. If you don't like the idea that you score a point just for rolling a natural 20, you probably won't like this game. So keep that in mind. I love this game, Ziya Legends of a Drift System. And my number one favorite game of all time is from WizKid Games and designed by Vlaja Chvátil, I believe is pretty close to pronouncing his name. I know it's not Vlada Chvátil, so that much I know for sure. Vlaja Chvátil, hope I'm getting your name right, sir. This game is fantastic. Mage Knight, the board game, is so much fun. Still haven't gotten any of the expansions. I need to grab Lost Legions soon, but right now Mage Knight is just it's so compelling, so much fun to sit down and play through the various scenarios. I play this game more so. I've only played it 2 or 3 times with other people. Most of the time I'm playing this game solo. I actually would not recommend playing probably with more than 2 people unless you really don't mind a long game with lots of downtime. As a solo game, as a 2-player game, it's a very compelling experience. Constantly trying to beat your previous score or any of that type of stuff. Working with the deck building aspect of the game. One thing that I like about this one is that whereas in most deck builders, when you purchase new cards, you put in your discard pile to be used the next time you shuffle your deck. In this one, you actually put the cards on top of your deck to be drawn. So pretty much as soon as you get one on your next turn, you're going to be able to draw that card and potentially use it. I like that a lot. And one of the main reasons for that is because you only shuffle your deck at the end of the round. So you're only going to go through your deck maybe 6 times in a game because there might only be 6 rounds in an average game. This is another modular game where you're exploring tiles, and as you go to get to the edge of a tile, you flip over new ones, and there might be a monastery, and you can go in that monastery and either, maybe you're going to learn some new tactics from them, or maybe you're going to burn them down and steal whatever artifact it is they're holding on to. You've got keeps that you can storm, and that's going to make you more efficient with your deck because you're going to be able to draw more cards at a time. You've got mage towers where you can learn spells if you manage to break through their defenses. And then you've got these massive cities that have really powerful creatures guarding them that you've got to go into usually that's the main goal of the scenario, and conquer those cities. So many amazing experiences in this game. It's a very thought-provoking game in terms of strategizing and trying to figure out how to make your cards work best for you, because almost guaranteed every time you figure out how you're going to do something, if you look at it a little bit longer, there's a slightly more efficient way of doing it. And this game is all about getting that little bit of extra efficiency so that you can make your cards go a little bit farther instead of burn them all in one turn. So that's my number one favorite game of all time, Mage Knight, the board game. I hope you enjoyed this list. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. If you like my channel, please subscribe. You can find me over on Twitter at boredonlineboardoffline. I'm on Board Game Geek. You can find links to all that down in the description below. Be sure to go join our guild. And until next time, if you're bored online, board offline.